Welcome back. We're looking at the 4 types of sins that are punishable generationally by God. We've already covered the sin of idolatry. Let's go to the second one. It's the sin of abandonment. So what is abandonment? If I would say into brackets, I will put the word divorce as a type of abandonment. I will put separation as a type of abandonment. I will put polygamy as a type of abandonment, and illegitimacy as a type of abandonment. This is either having illegitimate children, this is having children out of wedlock, whether it is you who is in an illegitimate child, or you have children out of wedlock, or your forefathers did exactly that. That they either divorced or separated, or they were polygamous, or they had children out of wedlock during their time. That is what is called abandonment. So if that happened with your forefathers and they never repented by the time they died, then again they left an ancestral open door for the curses of abandonment. And which are they? The first one is marriage failure. So if you look at your family and you identify a lot of marriages failing, that there are too many broken marriages of people you're related to by blood, that is the curse of marriage failure. Because of what? The sin of abandonment. Again, I said I have scriptures to this effect just below the video that qualify what I'm saying scripturally according to God. Number 2, family fights. Because of the sin of abandonment of our forefathers, we find ourselves set up for family fights. This is where you find families are fighting over things, fighting over money, fighting over property, fighting over nothing. Sometimes I go to do family therapy and I listen to their stories and I'm like, why was it so difficult to resolve this? This is a small issue, it's a small thing, but it has taken them ages to resolve. And it's a small thing. It's called family fights. It's a generational curse. A small little thing can cause families to fight, disengage, hate each other for years, and this hatred is passed on from one family, from one generation to the other. That parents fought, their children came and found it happening, they got into it, they continued fighting. It's because there was abandonment where they are coming from. Their forefathers were involved in abandonment, which is what? Divorce, separation, polygamy, or even illegitimacy. So family fights is a generational curse. The other generational curse that follows us is violent anger. So if you come from a family where the forefathers were involved in abandonment, then you will find that those families are struggling with violent anger. And this kind of anger can lead to murder or even suicide. Yeah. So when you find somebody killing their own brother or killing their mother or killing their sister because they were angry, it's because where they're coming from, there was what? Abandonment. So violent anger then follows people within that bloodline as a generational curse. So to deal with this kind of anger, all that these people would need to do is repent the sin of abandonment and break the curse of what? Violent anger that can lead to murder or even suicide. The other curse that follows people who come from this kind of a family is the curse of illegitimacy. So you will find in this kind of families, there is a lot of illegitimate children who are born. That if you met together as a family in a function, you will meet many of you who are born and you don't know your fathers. So you'll find a lot of illegitimate children in the families. It is a generational curse. So if you don't want your children to have illegitimate children, all you need to do is break the curse of illegitimacy, which comes from the sin of abandonment. So you begin by repenting the sin of abandonment, and then you break the curse of illegitimacy from your life, from the lives of your children and their descendants. That is how you end it. And the last one in this category is the curse of sexual sins. Sexual sins is where somebody knows that they're engaging in a sexually immoral behavior against the will of God, and they know it is wrong. And they want to stop. They even try to stop. They do so much to stop, but they keep falling. They keep falling. They keep falling. It is because it is in the blood. Sexual sins is a generational curse. So if you're struggling with sexual sins, whichever it is, there are so many types of sexual sins. I don't want to mention them, you know them. If you're struggling with any of them, and you come from a family where there is abandonment, that is one of the curses that follow people who come from that kind of a family. So what you need to do is go before God, repent the sin of abandonment. It is a sin committed by your forefathers. Repent that sin before God, and then break the curse of sexual sins. And that is how people get free. Break it over your life, over the lives of your children and their descendants. The third sin that is punishable generationally is the sin of drunkardness. Drunkardness is not alcoholism. Drunkardness is where people get into drinking and they get drunk. They might never have gotten into alcoholism, but they were into drinking. So here we are talking of our forefathers. If they used to meet together to drink, and they would get drunk, and they would do the things that people do when they are drunk, and they never repented of drunkenness, and they died, then they left an open door for generational curses as a result of that particular sin. So what are some of the curses that follow people who come from a family where their forefathers were involved with drunkenness? Number one is alcoholism. Anybody who is an alcoholic, when you follow closely, you will realize they come from a family where there was drunkenness. So alcoholism is a generational curse. I have met many people who have been into rehabs and relapsed, went back to rehab. They relapsed, went back to rehab. By the time I met with them and helped them to break the curse of alcoholism by repenting the sin of drunkenness of their forefathers, it becomes easier for them to handle alcohol. And I know several that I can give examples of who were able to stop completely from taking alcohol, meaning the power behind the alcoholism was broken because it was ancestral in nature. So if somebody is struggling with alcohol, that is what you need to do. Disconnect them from that ancestral foundation where alcoholism is coming from. The other thing that follows people within this kind of a family is addictions. So these are addictions like what I've just mentioned: addiction to alcohol, addictions to drugs or bangi, addiction to pornography, addiction to food, addiction to spending, addiction to gambling. People who have these kind of addictions, they come from families where there was drunkenness. So as a result of the drunkenness, this door was opened and the curse of addictions followed them. The other one is rage. When you see people struggling with rage, again, when you follow them closely, you will realize they are coming from a family where there was drunkenness. The other one is poverty. There is some kind of poverty that you will find in some family circles, and you can tell very clearly that if these people had stopped drinking alcohol, they wouldn't have gotten into this kind of poverty. So there is some poverty that is related to alcohol, and it is very clear, you can see it. So for that kind of poverty to leave the family, they will need to repent the sin of drunkenness and break the curse of that poverty, and they get free. The last one in this category is feelings of abandonment. Feelings of abandonment is where somebody feels like I don't belong. It's like I'm the black sheep in the family. It's like I'm all alone. It's like nobody cares. And these are the kind of people who can get out of their homes and they go for good and they never return, you know. And people are left wondering, what did we do to our brother? Why did he go? What did we do to our sister? Why did she leave? And you hear people saying, we have a brother we haven't seen for 30 years, for 40 years. He left and never came back. It is because they never felt like they belong. And these kind of people who are born with this kind of a feeling, it doesn't matter how much you try to love them, they don't feel it. If you get married to that kind of a person, you will struggle to love them, but they don't feel it. It is called feelings of abandonment. It is a generational curse. They are born with it. It's in their blood. It cannot simply go because you're showing them love. It will only go when the sin of drunkenness is repented and then the curse of feelings of abandonment is broken. If you are that kind of a person who's always feeling like you're alone, it's like nobody cares. Even when your family members try to show you love and care, you don't feel it. Probably it is the curse of feelings of abandonment that has caught up with you. So all you need to do is repent the sins of your forefathers, and the particular sin here is the sin of drunkenness, and then break this particular curse of feelings of abandonment, and you'll be set free. So that is the third sin. So as I come back with the other video, I'll be talking about the last sin, and then I'll give you the assignment so that we begin to deal with these generational curses. So look carefully where you're coming from. Try to check whether these things are there and repent. So see you in the next video.